Okay, thank you, Dr. Smith, for that great introduction. And yes, I guess I need to change my profession or figure out another way to explain the words. It's really a pleasure for me to be here today to speak to all of you on this particular panel, which is really embedding health literacy into clinical trials from the beginning of the process to improve recruitment and retention. And I think it's going to be interesting for us maybe to discuss what the beginning of the process is. I was just at a meeting in Boston where we were talking about the beginning of the process being first in humans and even before first in humans, which is really interesting to think about how that might happen. So we can maybe think a little bit about that, what's the beginning, but we do know we all want to be earlier into the process so that we can be quicker with recruitment times, which means that we can get our drugs to our patients that much sooner. And does anyone know where to point this? It's not moving. It's on the laptop, yes. Thank you. Okay. Okay, this is just my disclaimer for all of you. These are my opinions, not the opinions of Pfizer. I wanted to tell you a little bit today that I've been thinking about incorporating health literacy into clinical trials, and I think it's like world peace. Everybody really agrees that it's an important thing to do and that we should have health literacy and we should have world peace, but not everyone knows how to do it or even agree on the way that we can achieve this. So hopefully today's roundtable will shed a little more light on this topic. The focus of this morning's session will be quite broad. We'll talk about communicating, particularly about clinical trials and preparing for informed consent, health literate recruitment strategies, and developing some health literate materials. We'll also discuss how these efforts go much more beyond plain language, which is why I have a little bit of a concern about calling lay summaries plain language summaries, so that's another discussion for another day. But what goes into creating health literate materials as well? So we'll also touch upon informed consents. We have a lawyer with us today, so that will be interesting to see that perspective. And we'll talk about some of the issues that are faced by the institutional review boards as well. And also we'll focus on how to enroll minorities in variable health literacy people into clinical trials, and then we'll explore some of the regulatory trends towards health literacy in clinical trials. So it's a jam-packed few minutes here, but we hope that it's of interest to all of you. And we've got a great panel today as well. So each panelist is going to give a 5 to 7 minute opening statement, and they'll show a few slides offering some examples of health literate materials that might be useful for all of you. And then finally, we'll have time for 30 to 45 minutes, hopefully, of discussion from the round table and from you in the audience to discuss some of these issues more fully. So I'd like to first briefly introduce our panelists. And then, as Dr. Smith mentioned, you can find their bios in your program materials, so they're more complete. So Dr. Ebony Boulware, our first panelist, is a professor of medicine, chief of the Division of General Internal Medicine in the Department of Medicine at Duke University. She's also Vice Dean for Translational Science and Associate Vice Chancellor for Translational Research in the School of Medicine at Duke. She has extensive experience leading clinical trials and investigating mechanisms to improve quality and equity of care and health outcomes for patients with chronic diseases. Our next panelist is Dr. Katina O'Leary. She's president and CEO of Health Literacy Media, a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to putting health literacy into action by making information accessible and usable. She also serves on Washington University's Human Research Protection Offices of Consent Task Force And she's a participant on the Multi-Regional Clinical Trial Center, as you heard, of Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard's Health Literacy Working Group. She's also a member of the Roundtable. Ms. Alicia Staley is Senior Director of Patient Engagement for mHealth at Medidata, and she has over 20 years of experience in software design and information systems management. I think when I worked with her before, she also mentioned some aspirations of being an astronaut in the past. She's also a 3-time cancer survivor who collaborates with a wide range of stakeholders to improve processes and policies that affect patient care and clinical trial. We've been fortunate to work with her many times at Pfizer. She also has co-led several research studies on how patients share information online and how they seek out clinical trial opportunities. And finally, Mr. Chris Trudeau has a dual appointment at both the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences and at the University of Arkansas in Little Rock, William H. Bowen School of Law. As an associate professor at UM's Center for Health Literacy, he conducts research on health communication using Clear Health Communication. He drafts healthcare documents, and he teaches health law and communication courses to medical students and to students in other health professions. He's an expert on informed consent, which will be really useful to us today, and also on risk communication, and he's also a member of the Roundtable. So before we begin, I really would like to thank all of our panelists for being here today and for the time they put into preparing for this meeting, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Dr. Boulware, would you like to begin? Oh, thank you.